Welcome to another Workout Wednesday. This is going to be a little different. I am at one of my swimmers' house here out in Phoenix, Arizona. And don't do this often, but we're going to mix it up a little bit. So let's check it out.
Okay, so that's what I have so far.
I know. I've given you 3 of them.
Yeah.
3 out of 4. Welcome to Unconventional Workout Wednesday, where I am giving one of my swimmers here, Finn, a little task of coming up with some work on his own. So we've been working together for not a year, more than 6 months, 10 months.
Yeah.
And main focus have been stability with a lot of range of motion, so mobility. We have a lot of work to be done. We have never really done a endurance type workout. And I know a lot of us right now have time on us to keep our fitness up, and we're not swimming as much, so we're gonna have a little bit more of an endurance type circuit. So about 12 exercises is the task, and we're getting stuck. It's okay. The more novice we are, the harder it is to come up with exercises. So 12 exercises. If you want to come up with your own, please feel free to do so, and I'll do my best to keep you creative here. So right now, I want you to go ahead, either in the sun or inside. I say in the sun, why not? Do inchworm sequence. Okay. 3 repetitions, and you guys should know what inchworm sequence is by now. And let's go. And I did say inchworm sequence, but I meant foam roll. I will be guiding you guys through his workout here with the audio. So when I say foam roll, I mean less than 5 minutes. Let's get the essentials out. And for Finn, it's calves, it was quads and hip flexors, and also a little bit of back before we get started with a little bit of inchworm sequence like I mentioned. And if you guys are watching the YouTube channel, the first workout Wednesday, the first workout we actually posted, I am going through this inchworm sequence in detail. But essentially, we are doing the inchworm, walking out, opening up the hamstrings, a Spider-Man stretch, a little thoracic rotation, a pigeon stretch, shoulder tap, walking it back down in, and then doing a quad pull, keeping it dynamic here for the whole body. A figure 4 pull, opening up the hips a little extra, and then also closing up here with a hip flexor stretch reverse lunge before we go into the band prep. And if you guys are watching the Swimming World magazine tech tips, this set is actually a whole tech tip that we did for them. And this is a BRADFORD press where we're simply standing on the band and then bringing that over our chin and then back over our neck with as little head movement as possible. Okay, it's very important that we're keeping the spine neutral and controlling the repetitions up and down, 10 repetitions. After that one, we're going to go right into an overhead squat with the same band. If you have something similar here, that works just as fine. But this band is great for novice swimmers. The red band tends to be a little heavy here for younger swimmers. So what we're working here, full range of motions in the squat, punching the band up, and also feeling like we have a little rotation outwards in our hands as we are coming down to keep as much tension in the middle back as possible, not just the lower back here, but keeping the tension, controlling it down, faster up, 5 repetitions. The last one on the warm-up is an RDL, a Romanian deadlift with the band. We're grabbing it onto the side or from the sides and stepping on it, and slight bend in the knees, neutral spine, and I'm asking him to keep his head in line with the spine here. It's easy for swimmers to look upwards as we're coming down, but remember where we swim in a body line, so remember to do your RDLs the same way. Control it down, get a little stretch activation, if you will, in the hamstrings, glutes if you can. Obviously calves are going to help out here as well. 10 repetitions, and we're going to do this whole round twice. I always like to wrap up the warm-up with the bands with pass-throughs to open up the chest and the lats a little bit extra. And before we get into the main work, we're actually going to do a little bit of work that swimmers typically don't like doing, and that is skipping. It's very coordinative. It takes a lot of coordination for swimmers, and it's taken Finn a while to get his contralateral coordination here, meaning that his opposite hand and opposite leg comes up. Backwards skipping is further more difficult, and we have just introduced this to Finn, and as you see him do that for the first time. What I mean by his contralateral skipping is that he's had issues with his same knee, same arm coming up, and that just takes time for swimmers to figure out. We're just not as known to be smooth creatures on land. So what does skipping allow us to do? It allows us to get more coordinative, a lot more athletic. And here
I am teaching Finn also how to do a little standing skip into a little switch, and that is really challenging to teach swimmers, especially if we are football players or soccer players or track and field runners. It's much easier, and what we're doing here is essentially trying to teach Finn's brain to contract much quicker, keeping the whole system stiff and stable while contracting faster as well. So this little drill is a great little skip in place if you don't have a lot of space to move around with. So if you're at home, you can do this skipping at home. And what we're doing here for the warm-up, we simply did 15 seconds on, 15 seconds off. That skip 6 rounds. So I'm encouraging you guys to try that out at home. And as we're skipping, important to not rush the skips, and it's easy for the heels to fall behind the knee. I would like for the heels to be in line where the knees are. So if we're punching the knee up, make sure that the heel stays right in line or underneath the knee. Otherwise, that means that we're a little bit relaxed and kind of a little tense, if you will, to bend the knee as much. So we want the movement coming from the hip flexor and the abs, really important, and we're trying to punch down through the ground to find our glutes. Swimmers don't really understand what glutes are. It took me 30 years as a coach to find the glutes, but essentially that's encouragement in the skipping.
Okay, round 1 complete. We tweaked it a little bit, otherwise it's going to be too much lower body, but we have essentially the workout over here. Okay, we have 15 seconds, Finn's second round. We'll see how he feels if we're gonna go into the third round. It's gonna be a lot of work, but he's doing great. You feeling all right, my man?
Yep.
All right, let's do it.
Burpees, first exercise. I typically don't prescribe a lot of burpees, but they are good movements. They're tough for novice athletes that don't necessarily like doing burpees. But what we're looking for here, I want the whole chest down to the ground, and I want symmetry in the feet moving up and down together. That's essentially how we're coming into the walls, and a lot of swimmers tend to be a little lethargic here, taking one leg up and kind of stepping up. But this is powerful, so be powerful here and be rhythmic. If you're not a really good burpeer, if you will, then I'm encouraging you to just find slow, controlled rhythm throughout the whole 40 seconds. But if you're really good, rep it out. How many can you get in 40 seconds? The second movement is a face pull, and I'm using 2 super bands here that are tied together essentially, and then we are pulling it into our face, controlling it back. So always thinking negative repetitions here when we are working this, because it's easy to rush through this. So I want us to pull the band up to our face, control the band back out into a full extension before we bring the back up. So again, no rush here. Don't want you to do as many reps as possible. The more controlled repetitions you're doing, the better, because not only are you going to start feeling the shoulder blades and the back moving, because I do want the first movement to come from the shoulder blades, your arms are going to start getting a little heavy here as well. That's the second exercise. Third exercise, we're simply doing a reverse lunge, and we're actually punching the leg straight up, so we're keeping all the tension on the one leg that is on the ground and making sure that the knee stays in line with the toe as much as possible. And we're going to go 20 seconds on each leg. Important that we are trying to keep the pressure evenly on the foot here. It's easy to keep the pressure sometimes on the outside of the foot or the inside of the foot, but make sure we're really planting the whole foot down through the ground as we're controlling this whole step all the way back and then back up. Bear crawls, they are probably one of my favorites, and if we are not relatively strong, this is a fantastic exercise to strengthen and stabilize the system. And I like to keep the knees close to the ground. So if we're starting in a tabletop position with our hands and knees on the ground, simply just elevate the knees and start stepping there. And small steps, don't have to take really big steps. And if we can try to really take opposite hand, opposite leg at the same time, that's the most beautiful thing. 20 seconds forward, 20 seconds back with a neutral spine. So abs have to be super engaged the entire way. When we're done, go right into child's pose. Great way to just wrap that up. Dead bugs, probably one of the best core exercises, healthiest all round for any age and level swimmer. We are Extending opposite hand and leg outwards, we're trying to separate the fingertips from the toes as much as possible while pushing the lower back to the ground. Very important that the lower back always maintains downwards while the opposite hand reaches up towards the ceiling or the sky. If you want to make this more advanced, you straighten your legs out. If that's hard, if your hamstrings are not allowing that, I will allow you guys obviously to bend your legs, that's no problem. But the straighter your legs are, the more hamstrings you will feel, and it's a really great movement for the entire body. One arm overhead carry. And I like doing this with a little march where we are getting more transverse abdominis, more stabilizing muscles in the abs working with the knee coming up this way. And also controlling the step down. So come up, reach forward with the foot and control the step down while punching that kettlebell or whatever weight that you have up towards the sky or the ceiling. And I want us to kind of feel like we have a little outward rotation, external rotation in the shoulder, if you will, to reach up as much as you can while keeping your elbow as locked as you can throughout the whole movement. 20 seconds with the one arm, 20 seconds with the other arm. One leg lateral hops. I love this movement for being a lateral plyometric movement. I mean, it's more explosive than anything. It's not plyometric because we're not getting that stretch shortening cycle, but stabilize, absorb the force when you are landing over. And when you're jumping, I want you to think here a rainbow more than anything. It's hard if we're not powerful. If we're young, it's tough to get that air, if you will, to get over the mat, but do the best you can to force or to jump forcefully, land softly, absorb the force evenly on your foot before you're jumping over again. W lift into a streamline where we are aggressively retracting the shoulder blades and then from there going into a streamline position and then back. We don't want to extend our back too much. We want to rely on the shoulder blades doing most of the work, and we don't want our lower back to get up and do most of the work either. So middle back, that's lower trapezius, and also to make sure that the neck stays in line with the spine as much as possible. You can see, Finn, it's easy to want to come up and look forward, but try to keep the neck in line with the spine as much as we can is the way to go. Now we're going into TRX squat jumps. If you don't have a TRX, you can do regular squat jumps. And we don't do a lot of jumping with Finn, but he's getting strong and I want to push him a little bit more to be able to handle this load a little bit more under longer circumstances. So we can tell here that Finn has really tight hip flexors and quads, so I would like for his butt to come down a little bit more with his chest upright without compensating the pressure on the feet, very important, while keeping the spine neutral. Now, he's a novice swimmer and we don't do these jump often. If you're more advanced, you can keep the TRX a little closer to yourself to keep it a little bit more comfortable. Tricep extensions. When we're doing the tricep extensions, find a comfortable incline, and I want your arms to be in a streamline position when you're starting, kind of like you're squeezing the head. Even if you have your streamline with your arms pretty much behind your back, squeeze your head here, and I want your biceps to almost touch, and I want you to make sure that your ears don't have any gap between your arms. That's the best way and safest way to make sure we have tension on this tricep extension. So you're letting the arms come down, make sure the elbows are flexing down back, and then we're extending the whole body back. So it should be a total body movement here with the TRX, so not only just the arms but the whole core as well. Straight arm plank hip dips or hip rotations, and this is where we are keeping the upper back as still as we can and only making a little lateral dip from the hips. I got this one from Lars Frölander in Sweden, who's a big proponent of a little bit more core specific work for swimmers, and I don't mind this one. It gets the obliques working just slightly more, and it's tough to make sure that the heels here are not moving, so keep the whole toes rigid all the way down to the ankles, and then work from the hips and without going crazy with the upper body. So try to dissociate the hips here from the entire body. Last one, partner rocks. You will need someone to help you out, mom or dad, or get together with a swimmer. Lock your elbows to your knees, crunch and hold that position. Now, your partner, whoever is rocking, the slower we rock, the more of a favor we're making our swimmer here. Okay, the slower we go, the harder it is to keep the core contracted here in the isometric crunch. And what I want you guys to do is long neck, maintain as long of a neck as possible as this rock happens. and I guarantee you guys that you will feel your abs and your hip flexors working together like you have never felt before. And to finish up the workout, a little bit of child's pose, little upward facing dog, about 5 repetitions to get the whole core, whole system flushing. Now that was 1 round that you guys saw Finn doing. He did 4 rounds. That was a great workout. Encouraging you guys to try this one out.
Overall, endurance-based strength, a lot of stability, but not nearly close to maximal strength, except for the partner rock. It's really tough. So enjoy this workout, guys. Have fun. Comment below what you would like to see coming up.